actually know how well it's actually going. Because every single time I type, it's going to shake everything. Oh, I can see my face. It's a hideous sight. How do I hide? Yep. Like I'm just gonna hide my face. So might as well just get started. Let me just check to make sure I'm not negatively impacting on my roommate's net too much, and not. So always a problem with using ADSL is that you always get pretty much really bad ping and really shitty quality, which is why I decided to do these kind of talks instead. A lot more off the top of my mind. The YouTube ones like kind of I have to go through like 4 or 5 times before I'm happy with it. This one, I guess, I really just say what I want. It's just interesting because, yeah, it's just interesting sometimes. But yeah, so everyone, welcome. I'm just gonna be here talking for maybe about an hour or so, maybe just going through a couple of Q&As. The main two things I wanted to talk about, just from my experiences, I guess, when I had to fill in for a team, was firstly the in-game leader. I should stop talking so passively. Firstly, in-game leader, and secondly, about respect. The first aspect, well, I might as well go into. So, in-game leader. What is the role of an in-game leader? And what is the role of, I guess, all the other troops marshaled around an in-game leader? That is a very good question. We always hear about, designated roles where, I mean, if you look at, say, a team like Renegades, you have those defined roles of who is the team AWPer, who are the entry fraggers, who is the backup entry fragger, who is the lurker, so on and so forth. You can see these in Division 1 teams as well. I mean, you go to any Division 1 team, if they're doing a set strat, so nothing outside of a default, you will see them playing certain roles. Now, the interesting thing would be... Strax, you're not getting mod. I'm sorry. The interesting thing would be... What does the in-game leader have to do? Now, what's his role? Is his role just to call out strats? No. His role is to call out strats, and then I guess this is why I'm talking about in-game leader as well as respect for your teammates, is because if you do not have that respect for your in-game leader, you will not go where he says, I guess, and that's not really good. Let me just tilt my monitor a bit. No, I was blocking it. And the problem with that, an in-game leader is effectively you have to listen to them. They are the leader of your team. Whatever they say goes. It doesn't matter if it's wrong. Because, okay, let's just say, for example, he calls, alright, we're going to go 5-man drop room, and, you may have spotted that the CT's like playing 4 people in drop room. I don't know why anyone would do that on a, buy round if you go A couple of times, but let's just say in Cobblestone, you've been noticing the counter-terrorists have been playing drop room a lot. Now, your input as a player may be, okay, I don't want to go drop room because there's 4 there. You call out that information. If the in-game leader says, okay, but we're still going drop room because I feel like we can go there, you listen to your leader. That's all there is to it. As an in-game leader, he makes the decisions he calls, and he lives and dies by the sword, so to speak. Now, his goal also is to make sure that everyone is communicating. He moves people to where it's needed. Think about it like as a kind of a real-time strategy game. That in-game leader needs to really just be able to move everyone to a certain position, needs to be able to track the positions of everything that's been called. He is effectively... The reason why they cannot entry is because they are dedicated towards thinking about, okay, where is everyone? Where are the counter-terrorists at? As a terrorist, right? You're trying to go into a site. Where are the terrorists located at? As a counter-terrorist, the in-game leader is not needed as much because... Well, it's simply, okay, you can go, alright, there's going to be 3 towards there. Okay, one person needs to rotate. Done. You know who's holding where. You don't exactly need to go, alright, you need to go here, you need to go here. Because some of the players, when you call them that, may miss out on crucial information where the counter-terrorists are. But as a terrorist, when you're playing that in-game leader, you need to communicate succinctly, okay, you need to see what information is coming out from your teammates, and then you need to make an according change the plan, so to speak. And that's where I think a lot of plans are starting to fail. And this is, I guess, looking at CGA teams. I've been casting a couple of CGA teams. I've been I played one match myself the other time. I was completely trashed. That's pretty much me. But one thing I did notice that even when I was scrimming with teams is that when you're practicing as an in-game leader, because they forced me to play in-game leader role, I don't know why. You need to be able to change the adaptability of your plan. You may have a set take as a 4-1 into... Once again, I like saying cobblestone because that's what I practice, is a 4-1 into cobblestone. The problem is that if you do that, you need to be able to make sure that you can change that if anything goes awry. Say, for example, you've got one lurker and he says, oh, hang on, they're going towards that A site. They've got 3, 4 on B site, and your lurker's already picked off on an A site. Do you still try to force the issue onto B site, or do you try coming off and make sure that you actually just completely just go A site to the clean one because your teammate's already pushed up? And that's where the adaptability comes in, especially on buy rounds, where you see so many times time is running out because there's not enough information being gathered and just not enough marshalling. Sometimes you just got to force the issue. Sometimes you just got to go out, and that's where I guess playstyles come in. Different teams have different playstyles, but I've seen so many times time running out because teams are just too afraid. You're even seeing, I guess I'm probably picking on a team here, even in Division 1, where you look at Team Molotov. I felt like how they fell down against their match against XR5 a couple of days ago when I was casting it with Wally was that they just weren't committing towards a side. And the problem is that you're getting picked off, especially on Mirage. You'd had Prackham going on one side. He had no one backing him up. Now, it's all good if, you're playing that pick and split strat on Mirage, but the problem is you got to back each other up especially when you're playing higher up. You got to back each other up. You got to be able to flash each other in. You got to be able to disengage. You got to be able to trade. A 5v4 as a terrorist, if you lose that first man, if you do not trade, it only gets harder, especially if you're playing that pick and split strat. You need to be able to get the trade because at the very least, say for example, you lose one, but you kill one, you fall back. It forces the rotation of the counter-terrorists. They don't know what's going on. Now they're forced to play aggressive. Okay, they have to play 2 on A, so that means that probably 1 at CTCon and 1 on site, or 1 CT. And that leaves Palace open now, because that person at CT needs to not only watch jungle, he also needs to watch mid to help a short player, but he also needs to watch A ramp. Now the terrorists now can feel free to gather around, and this is probably in the first half a minute, mind you, that once they get the first pick. They're now free to gather around and go wherever they want, and that's the crucial thing. Adaptability, I feel like, is something that in-game leaders need to work on. They need to be able to call out a strat. Having strats are good, but having adaptability is even better. And that's also comes down to players, I guess. Players also need to be able to adapt. So, yeah. Woo, in-game leaders, fun times. That was actually quite fun because when I was going, I guess, a bit into practicing was actually quite fun simply because teams, I guess, take practice sometimes the wrong way. It's really odd sometimes. Teams take it... Oh, by the way, if you guys got any questions, feel free to chuck it up in chat. Just don't listen to me. I'm just going to blabble about anything that has been contained for 2 weeks. Because I've just been playing literally ECA. I've been cancerous in ECA. I do apologize, but sometimes I just need to unload my emotional baggage. And unfortunately, the best way of doing that is unloading it onto people who are not playing Counter-Strike correctly. Me included. When you're practicing scrims as a team, do not just simply opt to go for, oh, let's go towards there. Let's just go A site. Let's go A site. Or let's just frag them. Oh, we're losing. Why are we losing? Those are the wrong kinds of attitudes to have, in my opinion. If you're losing, don't look at it as a blame game kind of thing. Sometimes you'll lose aim deals. I'll be also going to that later in terms of, I guess, internationally. But if you're losing, do not look to play the blame game. Sometimes, yes, there is blame to be made. But as a player, the first thing you need to do is understand that sometimes there are things inside your capability that you can change. Like, say, for example, your B hold's fucked. Fuck, should I be swearing? Maybe not. Let's just say, for example, on Mirage, your B player is just screwing up and just can't hold B apps, and that is a big problem because once they kill your B apps player, your B's open. Your short player has now a very, very hard job of trying to contain that B rush. So that B apps player needs to stay alive. Now, if you're looking, say for example, that person is, keeps on pushing B apps and keeps getting killed. All right, what you can do is, I guess you can adapt and you need to push aggressively, but there's a certain limit of what you can do. If you're that short player, there's a certain limit. You can maybe get 2 to 3 kills. Just work on, just holding that short position to the best of your ability, and just tell your BAPS players. Sometimes your BAPS player will be like, "Oh, but I'm not doing anything wrong. This game's boring." Just ignore them. And as a teammate, you need to tell them, like, the fuck are you doing? Get your head back in and play like you'd properly do in a scrim. Now, it may be because you're playing the fifth game of the night, you've been playing Counter Strike for 24 hours, whatever. In a pug, sure, go for it. Just push wherever you want. I don't really care. In an actual scrim, I see all of the time people just pushing and just getting picked in the most obvious lines. And you have to tell them. This goes back to in-game leader. If you're the in-game leader, tell them stop doing that because it's retarded. I mean, typical lines would be, as a counter-terrorist, you're picking long A on cobblestone. Why the fuck are you doing that? Like, seriously, why are you doing that? A terrorist is going to be training an AWP there probably 90% of the time. If you look at any match, there is a terrorist sitting there waiting for you to push out. If you're pushing out, you're forcing your team into a shit situation in cobblestone, where if you lose one man already, you're already gone. Now, that is a problem. Don't, as a counter-terrorist, if you go, oh fuck, I got picked, right? Just fall back and play defensive, communicate. Alright, they're playing, this. We've got information. Say, for example, on an Econ run, you push out, you get killed by an AWP. That's okay. You've got the information, you've understood. Alright, they play an AWP there. How are we going to adapt to that? How long do they take to push up that AWP, so on and so forth? That's what eco rounds are kind of used to gather. Sometimes you use them to gather information. What will these teams do on their buy round? What's their default setup? Back to the in-game later as well. I know I'm jumping between points, but hey. As a player, you need to go, okay, they're doing this, and you got to also think as well. You got to use your own cognitive ability to go, alright, so what do I need to do as a player? Do I now play aggressive A because they're never taking sewers? Or do I fall back onto A side completely because they just never push onto A? I mean, I generally, how I like playing cobblestone, don't quote me on this one. I'm not a good player, but what I like doing is because that B site, everyone likes taking that B site on cobblestone. I know that. Put 3 and 3 on B site is a standard default. But instead of putting 2 aggressive A, what I like doing instead is putting 1 close towards long A and having 1 sitting towards city con with the door. Spotting that line with the AWP. You're not going to hit something a lot of the time, but a terrorist is going to be deterred from pushing out now. They're going to have to use smokes and flashes just to push out of just mid. Now long A, you're fine at long A because your teammate's watching it, and it's harder for the terrorist to push in. Now, obviously, that is also exploitable as a terrorist. If they just take fast mid control into long A site's very open to be smashed. But that mid con player can rotate. So that's also dependable on the situation that you play as a terrorist, like as how the terrorists play. Yeah. Oh, I got water this time, so it's good. It's my mug. Going on to respect now. This is a bit of an interesting thing. Once again, if you guys have got any questions, put it in chat. I'm not sure if my chat's actually working or not. I'm not sure if this dashboard thing is really good, so I actually don't know. I just don't know anymore. So if there are any problems, just feel free to tell me about it because, yeah, I don't know if there's anything going on. I know that the banner's absolutely crap because I did it about a year ago. Whatever. I wish I could get one more megabit upload stream because that way I can actually do, 600 bit rate instead of 450 or so because I don't want to like screw around my roommates. But okay, so I guess talking into the next part would be respect, and the biggest part is this ties in, once again, with the in-game leader. You have to respect your in-game leader and you have to respect your other teammates. The easiest way to do it is understand that sometimes you're not the fucking best player in the world. No one is the best player in the world. Okay, there are best players in the world, but no one in Australia is the best player in the world. I mean, with all due respect to even the best fraggers on, obviously, the top teams of Renegades, Immunity, Chiefs, all the Division 1 teams. Everyone always has something to work at. Easiest way to go is if you draw like, a chart wheel and you go in terms of, game IQ, aim, just general quality, clutchability and stuff like that. No one is a 10 out of 10 for all of them. It's impossible. You don't have a perfect player like that Australia yet. There are players that are getting there because they have the whole kind of okay, they don't have the ego kind of thing. They just simply go, all right, this is a job that I have to do, and I just improve on that. That all boils down to respect. If your in-game leader is telling at you to do something and then you just do it. That's you got to have respect for your in-game leader, what they're doing. This goes back to the original point with in-game leader. Even if he calls, five-man drop room, CTs have four people in drop room in cobblestone. Just if the in-game leader says do it, you have to do it. You have to respect your in-game leader in any situation whatsoever, and you need to respect your other teammates. Doesn't matter if you think that oh, fuck they're going 3 kills and 20 deaths. God knows how many times I've gone 3 kills and 20 deaths. It doesn't matter because it's the matter of the way that they're getting the 20 deaths. They could be getting information, they could be doing a lot of damage, and just delaying a push at the very end of a round, and then the terrorists run out of time. You're just not necessarily getting kills. Cool. You've bought up so much time, you've gotten the information, you've pushed the terrorists back, but you haven't got the kills necessarily. And that's why we, don't... This also, I don't know, it just jumps between so many points, but this also goes on to another point. Don't criticize teams if they just don't do well in terms of, okay, they're losing rounds, but how are they losing rounds? That's another big thing. I'll be going on to that later. Yeah, just respect your teammates mainly. Respect your opponents. Yes, definitely. If you're versing teams, respect your opponents because, I mean, at the end of the day, it's still a game. I mean, you look at the top teams, yeah, sure, they're going and playing internationally, but, if you're in Division 2, Division 3, it's just a game. Make friends with it. I mean, there's no point harboring, angst and anger. You might as well just respect another player. If they cheat, so what? I guess the respect for them goes down. They have to prove that, they don't cheat anymore. And some players have done that. And I can respect them for that. They've cheated before. They're now a new character. Are they? It's always debatable, when people cheat 2 to 3 times, how many times is the line? But, I don't know, I always believe in the general goodwill and being of human beings. That they don't do anything spiteful. That we're all just human. You're just all people at the end of the day. Just respect each other. Easy. Yes, and just respect your teammates. I remember going on to one more thing. I think I was planning also on talking about the map pool as well. This is really the best, most interactive. I might as well just talk with myself. So it's like, hi Kevin, how's it going? Good. What would you like to talk about today? One other thing I wanted to talk about was the map pool, and the map pool is in a really good place right now. I mean, if you look at yeah, actually, a lot of things in Australia are in a good position right now if you think about it. I mean, you've got now Australian teams that can go internationally. We've got a $10,000 prize pool for the CGPL. We've got ESL coming up in terms of the Crown Casino. Or that's the ESL sponsored event. I'm not sure how ESL is otherwise. You've got the Crown Casino event. You've got all these other tournaments that are happening for Australia right now. So in terms of CSGO, everything is on the up and up. So there's more than enough teams to fill out Division 2, Division 3 now. Division 1, you can still say, the quality of teams is still wavering a lot of the time, but every single Division 1 has been like that. I think even going back to Source, I mean, I can't remember a time where it was just picture perfect. Every single team was at this level, dead on this level, didn't really... they were all competing at each other. They were so, tightly interwoven that, they could easily take matches off each other. It wasn't really like that for the first couple of years of CSGO. I mean, that you had a couple of teams where you had the top 4, bottom 4. You could clearly see a divide. Sorry. I mean, even if you see 2 seasons ago when the Renegades was the previous Vox MNO, there was a clear divide. The top 4 teams are the top 4 teams, the bottom 4 teams are the bottom 4 teams, and the reason for that was that simply that the top, the bottom 4 just looked like in a completely different level. They were good, but they weren't great. And even then at ACL Sydney, as I saw when, I guess, Renegades played their last domestic tournament, that was ACL Sydney, as time flies. The level was just ginormous. I mean, if you look at Renegades, they were barely challenged, I guess. That was the easiest way to speak. They were barely challenged. IM were very, very solid, but the rest of the teams, X5 were good. The rest of the teams, though, were kind of like, they weren't, I guess, Avant-Garde as well, definitely top there as well. But the rest of the teams definitely couldn't really compete with Renegades or IM at the time, other than really Avant-Garde and XL5. And once again, that's that top 4 barrier. Now that barrier's kind of increased. I mean, I would still no doubt that Renegades and IM would take games off all the other teams easily. It's hard to say though, once again, because because the difference between a European style and an Australian style is completely different. I feel like the European style is just so much well oiled. I haven't watched as much, but just watching it is like a kind of like a beauty to behold. Everyone knows their exact role. Everyone knows exactly what they're doing, and they just commit. They just go, all right, we're hitting this site. We're just doing this. I mean, if you look at this, is once again, it's just the difficulty, I guess, of practicing for the Australian teams. It's very difficult for them to practice sometimes, and that's okay. Sometimes, you can't have everything at the end of the day. And that's why I want to wait and see how IM and Renegades do when they come back here, because the meta is still slightly different. I mean, you're gonna see things here that you won't see internationally. You will see things internationally that just won't work here for I don't know what reasons. I should go watch more Counter Strike internationally. That is, I just don't have time because girlfriend has class. I've got class, not really. I've got research to do, but girlfriend's got class, so yeah. It's not easy a lot of the time actually watching those international tournaments. I try to tune in. What I saw though from the other day of IM, it was good. I mean, don't look at whether if you judge teams simply by the pure virtue of the fact that they lose or win, no, just don't do that. Good teams will win a lot of the time. But good teams will also lose as well. And, every single time, I feel like everyone says, oh, Renegades lost. Look at their scores. I mean, come on. It's literally one match out of how many? They've been dominating for how long? It's literally one poor drop. And I have no doubt that they're just working on their weaknesses once again. They're going to come back up. I mean, you look at IM, for example, they got criticized heavily. And I was probably one of their biggest critics as part of, ACL Sydney. What I saw them playing as, I could not see them competing internationally. But they've raised the standard. They are all playing better, even though they did lose against Dignitas. They all played very, very well. There may be some questionable decisions in between some of the team members at certain times, but all of them played insanely well. And they're just going to improve and improve and improve. You can't instantly just come up to the seed and just go, alright, we're going to start demolishing, winning everything. That's just absolutely terrible. There is a good mentality to have, and I have to applaud Sniper on that. Because he goes into the confidence, we are going to win. And if you don't go into that confidence, you're never going to win matches. And I feel like they are now learning. And, a big respect to IM. They have gone leaps and bounds. Renegades, sure, they may have lost 2-0 against a rejuvenated Team Liquid, but I don't think that's anything much to read into. Renegades still, I feel like, are very, very strong. And they're just going to, improve. They know how to improve. I'd like to see Immunity versus Renegades again coming up towards this Crown Casino. It's definitely going to be very, very interesting. So, yeah. I mean, I find it's interesting seeing these things, but what do I know? I'm just a simple CGA player. I've upgraded from CGO, so I'm now a CGA player. Aha! Just trying to think what else to talk about. It didn't even get any questions, so thanks guys. It didn't really help me out there. The Australian scene is good. I mean, let me just bring up actually the top couple of teams. I apologize if the camera is shaking. I try make sure it doesn't shake too much, and I try not to move too quickly. Now even look at how many teams we got in amateur this week. How many teams in amateur have we got? Okay, so even we look in Division 1 for example, you got. Let's list the teams, right? Ironically enough, Immunity is the only one that hasn't paid, and I think they're in a lot of matches because they're just waiting for it. So let's look at who's on the top at the moment. So you got Animal Squad, who are currently 2 wins and 1 loss, and that's not a big surprise. I mean, they have a very, very strong team now. I mean, after their loss, I think a lot of people were kind of like on the border. Like some people were like, Animal Squad are going to do really well or they're going to do really poorly. They've gone leaps and bounds there. They've picked up, I think, like Razmik and Offner. That's definitely a bigger strength. They only lost against the Chiefs Esport Club, which was I think Skyfire are available now, or PDG's client, so to speak, and they lost 2-1. They did defeat XL5 and SIF Gaming, who, SIF have been absolutely on fire recently. They also on 2-1. Vox, I think, will be in match at 7:15 tonight, which they will be versing against the Chiefs Esports. So that would be PDGs. That would be a very, very good match to watch. That will be on the Peanut Gallery. So if you guys, if you guys are free at 7:15, definitely tune into the Peanut Gallery. Absolutely amazing. It will be a good match. So let's go more into this. XL5, it is a bit rough for them at the moment. They are rebuilding, but I have no doubt that they will come out and be stronger than ever. Now, even you're looking at F Society, haha Blackout, haha Wizard. Even then, I think they just need to just figure out exactly what's going on. They can definitely improve. I mean, they've stayed together for a team very, very long. I have no doubt that they can obviously pick up. I'm not sure who their losses were against. Their losses were against Vox, who are undefeated right now, SIF. So not, could have gone anywhere. Did go both 2-1. I'm not sure about the exact map score, but once again, it's tight. And you have, that's the top 6 so far. And you still have immunity. And then you have Molotov. I feel like, with all due respect, obviously, to Team Molotov, Don't Kill Me Trap, is that Molotov are possibly one of the weaker teams in Division 1, but I feel like that if they stay together for a lot longer, and they know how to play together, they will definitely deserve to be in Division 1. I mean, it's just a weird situation to put Team Molotov, I guess. They are not just at the Division 1 echelon just yet. I'm watching a lot of their matches. It has been quite odd watching them play. It's not very, fine-tuned, so to speak. It's very, very rough. But I wouldn't say that they're... Division 2, I guess, they would fight very, very difficult. It'd be very difficult for them to play against such teams like Atletico. Yeah, the new Atletico, which is Animus, Gratz, Ino, Kuma, Squishy, and Torn. That is actually really strong. I remember seeing them being picked up. PD obviously having a hand in that. They are going to go leaps and bounds. Very, very strong players on that team, and with some good leadership, they can definitely go far. So Molotov is in a very odd situation. I would say Molotov and Atletico. I haven't seen any of Atletico's map, but just judging by the performance, they have been doing quite well. So, look, judging based on that, I would say that it's very odd because they're kind of floating in between in between that gap between Division 1 and Division 2. So, once again, it's just a little bit more, they'll definitely break in Division 1. So I encourage them to keep at it. Look through your VODs, look at what is going wrong. Don't take anything, I guess, what the casters may say as disrespect. I know I couldn't play as well as you guys. It's just simply what I'm observing. Okay, there are maybe some things that, I believe that you guys can do better. If I'm wrong, AJK or Prackham, you have me on Steam, message me and tell me that I'm an idiot. So, I guess going through Division 2, you even have Elite Crew. How's Echo been doing? It's going to be interesting to see. It's just interesting, Elite Crew. I mean, Elite Crew and Atletico definitely at the top of their divisions at the moment. Jeez, that's scary. 14-1 for Atletico. They have 14-4-1 against. They've only dropped one map out of a best of 3. That's actually really scary. Whereas Elite Crew have only dropped 3, which is still pretty good. Aura, obviously very strong. Winnings, playing very strong. So, Division 2, I can definitely see some teams challenging Division 1, but only really 2 teams that are just pushing the border. I would not say that Elite Crew would be Division 1 either just yet. I don't know why I'm going through this and just going, oh, this is Division 1, this is Division 2. It's weird. I'm just looking at maybe, I guess, the potential. Potential is always a good word. I like potential. It just reminds me. Okay, so 16-14. Thank you, Kuma, for tuning in. 16-14. But once again, Trident, Fuck! I forgot to mention Trident! Burn's gonna kill me! Don't kill me, Trident! Don't kill me, Lonsdale. Don't kill me, any of you guys. I actually really love Trident. Congrats to Aiden for his new Dragon Lore. Definitely, definitely well earned. Aiden, the only left-handed player that I've met and know of, but definitely a unique and a very good AWPer. Yeah, I probably should have mentioned Trident as well, but as they said themselves, they don't do as well online than they do offline, and I guess a lot of it's to do with the mentality. I went into, I guess, a previous cast earlier. The mentality is very strong, so to speak. They don't go and tilt easily. They just play the game and then they just laugh it off, and that's what I can really appreciate, I guess. So yeah, yeah. Fuck you, Jakey. I don't know what to talk about now. What do you want me to talk about? I went through like literally everything. I've talked about respect. I've talked about IGL. Life. Life is always a good one. Life is always an interesting thing to talk about. No, like I'm literally the saltiest person you'll ever meet. Like that's why I'm drinking so much water because my doctor, my girlfriend has prescribed me, anti-hypertension pills because I have so much salt. No, I'm just joking. I don't have hypertension. I guess it'll be a good time to talk about ECA. ECA, I'd like to see more pug systems in Australia. ECA, I feel like is it's just very odd. I mean, you sometimes on ECA I play games against really high tier opponents. Sometimes I play against really bad opponents, and it just goes in between. And I'd like that to be like fine tuned, like something of if anyone from here from Source used to play the Got Games days, where there was a kind of a ranking system which is a bit broken, but it kind of worked. You were matched against good people if you're good, and you were it tuned itself out in the end where, Luke Havoc was an absolute insane god at that game. Like, yeah. I'd like to see more pug systems in Australia, actually. Face It is kind of... Face It's weird. ECA, it's not really working out right now. For me, personally, because it costs too much. I mean, fuck, I don't want to pay $10. I have to pay $11.90 just to pay for 1 month, and I'm not enjoying it. That's literally just, I go in there, I yell at people for being retards, and then I just go out, and I feel really unsatisfied because... Well, I feel really unsatisfied because, I just played with a bunch of retards, or I feel really unsatisfied because I played like shit. It's mainly the latter because I'm pretty much a bad player. So, Got Games and GT just kind of died. 1260 just kind of like disappeared, and that's kind of sad. Jakey, you said you're building a pug system. You better fucking build it because we need more pug systems. I don't think there's any problems with more pug systems. Unity, it's actually Unity was just really, really strange. It was like Unity was good at one stage. Unity, everyone was playing that. You had the admins that started, and it was very, very difficult. I can't even concentrate. Twitch chat fucking fucks me up sometimes. Unity was good because it was always busy during the peak times when there was no other pug system happening. But as soon as other pug systems happened, everyone left Unity because I think the system was just a bit too archaic. With all due respect to Versatile, as well as everyone from Pacific ES, as well as the Unity team, who worked very heavily at it, I'm not sure how it's even sitting. I just feel like Unity is now used as a scrim finder, as well as a... It's like a scrim finder, as well as like, oh, come into the Unity channel if you need support. A way to resurrect the pug system there. Have a working stat system. I honestly don't know. Like, it's honestly more enticing, I guess, if you made it more browser-based. And no, I don't like... I know ECA is also a kind of, program, so is Unity. Unity, no, not a working anti-cheat, so to speak, unless you go on EAC. No one likes EAC, unless... EAC doesn't work a lot of the time. Sorry, time. Yeah. Face It. No one can find games on Face It. Let's face it. No. Don't kill me for that pun, guys. Face It is just the queue times are too long, and I feel like the quality is probably there for maybe those entering the pug system. So those who are sick of matchmaking, because matchmaking is pretty bad. I mean, Not gonna lie, matchmaking is pretty bad. It's a good way to get into the pug system, but it's definitely not fun for anyone who's. It's kind of like, if you are currently a Division 2 player, you play ECA. If you are a CGO player, you kind of play Face It. Or if you're just new to it, you play Face It. I'd like to see how ESL and Unity go with their pug platforms. I know ESL should be releasing one. It's been, like, up and down as well. So, it'll be interesting to see. I don't know what else to talk about. I could always talk about RuneScape, how it's double XP weekend, but I don't think that's related with Counter-Strike. Map pool, I guess I would talk a little bit about the map pool. I'd like to see more maps being introduced. I don't know why Season is not in active rotation just yet, but I guess this operation has been a bit of a flop, whereas they brought Season back after the update, but I feel like it needs to be a bit more optimized. I don't know. Season just feels like a very odd map to me right now. It just maybe because it's just a rotation times. Not many teams have played it and understand it. I'm not sure if isn't it CGO rotation? I'm not sure if Season is in rotation. Nuke rework is gonna be weird. I mean, it was just very interesting hearing PK of the Peanut Gallery talking about Nuke. It might be good to actually have some CD sided, like heavily CD sided maps, and just look at the innovations that T sides can bring to it, and so on and so forth. Because we've seen like games that go from 15-0 back to 15-all. Not that, but my personal opinion is that Nuke needed some kind of changing. How it's going to be changed is very difficult. How do you change like the layout without completely just screwing it over? I mean, how do you preserve the identity of the map without losing too much of it? You open up the skybox too much, you're just liable to have like 4 Molotovs in every single corner of. You're liable to have just Molotovs just blanketing everywhere. But if you do, I think at the moment it's the rotation. But whatever. I'm not a great player. I'm not a great person at identifying the issues about certain things, but. Does that not post a link on CG? Like, that doesn't post a link. That's really weird. Do I have to like put www? Like the World Wide Web. www dot or dot full stop hyphen whatever. Map pool season. Where is Tuscan actually? Where the fuck is Tuscan gone? It's like it comes back as Toscan, then it just pisses off to nowhere, and I'm not sure what Brew's doing with it. Tuscan's gonna be weird now with Molotovs. Is it gonna work as well? I don't know. Because all the corners that terrorists, counter-terrorists used to sit on A site now can just be completely mowed off. So Tuscan's dead. Rip in peace. I don't think Tuscan's gonna come back. CPL maps were just effectively modified and made into Mirage and Tuscan. It'd be good to see some of the other ones like coming out like. I don't know. Now I'm like thinking about Contra. Like I'm just going through all the old source maps. Obviously, if anyone played 1.6, there's obviously more CPL maps that you had the Mill, you had the Fire, you had Strike, you had ones that I've never played before because I'm just a source idiot. So I don't know what I'm talking about in 1.6. Ruska was very very interesting as a map. I just felt like too many narrow corridors. It wouldn't really work in Global Offensive. They need to open up the viability of B-site. Because if no one knew what Ruska was, it was kind of like set in like snow, and you had like the really really fast A site rush, but you also had like this really like weird mid control kind of thing. It was like kind of like yeah, it's kind of like that where you could kind of go through vent into CT spawn as a terrorist, or you could boost up as a counter terrorist and go towards mid, and then you kind of like trap yourself if the terrorists rush you, and then it was just a very odd map, and it just wouldn't work in Global Offensive as well because literally your only way to access B site is either through mid or through this like really long corridor, which literally what a counter terrorist would do would just sit there with an AWP, just smoke it off, Molotov it off, sit there with a rifle, so on and so forth. You come into sight, there's so many corners to check, and by the time you have to smoke to dodge the AWP, you got to come really close, you got to flashbang in, and then by the time you're probably dead because you've wasted time. You might as well just go A site instead. So Ruska I don't see working unless they make a rework. Contra I don't see working just simply because it's like a season. And if they can't, the rotation timings I guess is now so much more heavily punished because of the fast-paced gameplay. And yeah, before it was a lot more slower. Like it was a lot more execution-based. Global offensive, like bang bang. If they make their way into B site, you're kind of donezo as a counter-terrorist. Your rotation, by the time you get to B site, you've got 15 seconds to find where the terrorists are and kill all of them. I feel like that's the problem with Contra as well. Contra, you have Bog and everything. Bog, that's an interesting name. So I don't know where they want to go with a map pool. With new coming out, there will be 8 maps after the 7 that we have right now. I think we're in a good position right now with the 7 or 8 maps we have currently. We have Dust 2. Actually, all of them are actually quite balanced, and even with the new 3, I mean, with Train, watching Dignitas play that was pretty exciting. Like with props to IM, I think just IM is like they probably. I'm not sure if they've seen that strat before or not. It was just a very, very strong mid take by Dignitas. Just those Molotovs, they just completely shut down Ricky's AWP. He couldn't really do anything to shut down that T-con take. And as soon as that happened, they just flooded into A site, and there was nothing that IM could really do. And Train is pretty much new. You have Overpass, which is still being figured out. Overpass is actually quite good right now as well. And then Cobblestone, you've also got that happening as well. I need to go take a bit of a toilet break, so I'll be right back. If you guys got questions, just chuck them in the chat. I've got to figure out things to talk, so I might as well talk about things. Oh, thanks. Oh, so this is like why you don't gain tons of weight because I'm a lazy fuck and then go play volleyball. Volleyball's actually really fun. Alright, I haven't played it for 2 years, and as soon as I like fucking touched the ball, it was really good. That actually sounds really inappropriate, like out of context. So if you guys cannot copy that part, it'll be greatly appreciated. Let's just talk more about Counter Strike. I mean, Counter Strike, yay! I mean, let's talk about internationally. I don't know anything about internationally. Let's talk domestically. I just talked everything about domestically. So what else do I talk about now? Do I talk about Animal Squad? Do I talk about Foon, who's back now, apparently? So oh, okay. So okay, easiest way to go through things with Counter Strike would be going through. Firstly, they need to, I think, fix the models again. Let's talk about the update. It's been nearly 2 weeks now. since the major update where they changed all the animations. And it's become really weird because, sometimes you'll have like, players actually shooting SMGs like this, and other times you got people like, they're holding like the Mac 10 out like here. Fuck, there's a like here, and they're like strafing like their arms like this, and they're moving like kind of like that, and you're like, how the heck am I meant to hit that? They really need to fix, I think, the models. They need to go through, fine tune that, fix everything that have issues like that. Yeah. It's actually just a bit disappointing because I feel like they could have done so much with that model update. That M4 nerf, I think, was appropriate. It's brought it back more into, you use the A1 for long range, you use the A4 for close range. The A1 is now actually it's much more controllable because of the lower firing rate. It's much more controllable, but you can't spray down anymore. So if you have the No. If you still have the correct, like, if you still play the correct lines and whatnot, and you still patiently wait, you can still get 3 kills with a single clip. The issue is now that the firing rate is a lot slower, you're gonna lose those one-on-one deals. Now, if you lose those one-on-one deals, that's where you look at the situation of what site you're holding now with the M4. A lot of the times, previously, we talked about, you have to use the silenced A1 if contesting like long distance and whatnot. You have to use the A4 if you're that solo player. Now that's like completely blown open. Is if you're playing certain positions, like say for example, in long A, I'd still choose the silenced A1 if you play towards that long position because you're still engaging in. The A1 is not a rubbish gun at close quarters. It is now just a much weaker gun compared to before where you could just go like and just like fire really quickly and just kill everything, and you're like, oh cool, that required a lot of skill. Now it requires like a lot more, I guess, positioning sense. You need to position yourself really well with the silenced M4, otherwise you can't do anything. With the A4 now, I'd see it being using a lot more in those close quarters as well as middle quarters. So anything like short, dust 2, B site was always kind of like, even if you saw in B site where it slowly stopped becoming a necessity to play with that A4. A lot of people just started playing with the A1S, and because you could still spray down and get 3 kills because the terrorists had to push out through smoke and they had to clear everything. They had to clear left, right, car, then they have to check behind the box, and by the time that's already happened, the counter terrorist just peeks out after pop flashing, just gets 2 kills, and with like the last of bullets gets a third one. And even if you trade him out, then it's just forcing into a 2-on-4. Even if you try taking mid. That silenced M4 has already done its damage. It's already cost you so many lives. It's set the counter terrorist up for a very, very good retake. With the nerf, you can't do that anymore. The A4 is a lot easier to identify where those shots are coming from. Regardless of the silence, you should be able to know where it's coming from. The general gist. A4, you can actually pinpoint where the counter terrorist is. So that may bring it back more in the balance of a terrorist side. It does bring it back more in the terrorist side balance. We'll see more as it goes on. Apparently, Valve said they will not be changing the balance of the silenced or the A4 anymore. So, yeah, hopefully it stays like that. Because I honestly do enjoy now that the guns have... The A4 now has this identity as kind of like that kind of like, that cousin you have that's kind of, special, but it works sometimes at close range. Yeah, A1S is the kind of always reliable, but sometimes now you don't want it to be able to do everything. So I guess they want everyone to be able to make sure that they can use both. You can buy both, but yeah, there's not like sometimes there's nothing that you can really do about it. I like to see that the fact that you can't buy both. I think it's good because you're given the option. You're forced to choose. You have to do this or you have to do that. So, but yeah. I'm not sure what else to talk about now. There's not much to talk about. Like, I've gone over that in-game leader aspect. If you're an in-game leader, and you want to improve, I mean, you just got to think of it kind of like a chess kind of thing. So you have to move your people around kind of like a chessboard. You got to strategically position everyone in a certain way. Yeah. The future for IM and Renegades. This is really good. I wish I could commentate on that a little bit more. I actually don't know. I think they're just going to go up and up. Like Australian teams, they're just going to keep improving and going up and up. I mean, with increased money, you're going to get more incentive to play. Before there was no incentive to play. Now you're getting more incentive to play. Now you're getting more sponsors in the market. You've got, trying to think of the word now. You got more like opportunities to go overseas. Before you didn't have as many opportunities to go overseas. Now you've got those opportunities to go overseas, so it's good. I don't even know if like what I'm doing anymore, to be honest, in terms of commentating. I guess that's another thing I want to talk about. The reason why I'm starting to stream. I can't stream any games at like 450p. Like you actually get nauseated looking at it, which like even if I move like too quickly, you get nauseated at it. The reason why I'm kind of like doing this is because yeah, it's important to have more content. I mean, if anyone even bothers going over this nearly, I'll probably end this about 6:30, so everyone has a bit of a 45-minute break going like before they go onto the peanut gallery. So it is going to be Vox versus Chiefs tonight. That's going to be actually a really good match. So if you guys aren't in for that, tune in for that later. That starts at 7:15 AEST. I don't even know why I say AEST, but yeah. I think the biggest thing is if you want to improve as a Counter Strike player. Nah, everyone's already great at Counter Strike. I can't say anything more about that. If you actually want to improve as a Counter Strike player, you always have to believe that you are good at the game, but it's like a really, really thin razor edge balance between you're really good at the game, but a big but you know you've got so much room to improve, and that is the biggest difference. You know that you have to identify what you're strong at. So, say for example, you're really, really good at aiming, like you're a fucking aim god. Good, you're good at aiming. Don't practice that anymore. Like, sure, war on that, but look at how to increase your game IQ. Look at how to increase your game sense. Look at how tactics are formed. Look at how to change your adaptability. I mean, if you're the entry fragger, there's not much that you can really change. If you're an entry fragger, sure, go in, click heads, do it, because you probably do that great already. The issue though is don't just practice aiming because aiming can only get you so far. And even now, I'm starting to see this issue in Division 2 teams. So this is probably like the last topic I'm gonna explain for the rest of the 8 minutes before I tune out. The last thing is if you're good at aiming already, don't keep on practicing aiming. There are a lot of people who I guess everyone would know, like, this guy's really fucking aim sharp. But when it comes down to decision making, they are very, very poor. When it comes to game IQ, they don't understand how anything else works. They don't know the rotation times, whatever. Sure, like maybe we just put them as a dedicated entry fragger, but when you need to change the adaptability of your strategy, so to speak, you really need to be able to just change things up. And that's where, like, practicing game IQ. How do you practice game IQ, you ask? Well, it's just, I guess, coming down to a fundamental understanding of the game. What would you do? Okay, say, for example, you're playing on a terrace cache. What would you do as a counter-terrorist? At a certain level, what would this player do? You always look at, okay, what would a good player do at this stage? They would be holding here. They'll be pre-nading here. They'll be trying to pick with an AWP here. You got to try to think in the boots of the other player. Shoes, boots, slippers, socks, whatever. Feet, I don't know. You always have to think exactly how the other player is thinking how to do things. Now, if you can do that, you suddenly become such a much stronger player because now you understand so much more about the game. Your view is not just simply, okay, I have to do this. Your view is now an entire view of the map. You can understand how the counter-terrorists are going to rotate. Say, for example, you're that B player on cache, because I don't know, I'm just using random math. Say, for example, you're that B player on the cache. You know that after a certain time, you'll push through. As a terrorist now, you'll know, okay, I'm going to wait right here. I know he's going to push through like this. I know he's going to peek out like this. I know when they're going to rotate. I know exactly where to catch them out. It's gonna be interesting to say like learning game sense wouldn't be capable of that. Like because I guess at the end of the day, this kind of goes back to my last point when I was speaking about when you're playing in pugs and whatnot and identifying your weaknesses. You will not be able to learn any more game sense because when you watch players, a lot of people may just look at something and just go, "This is really good aiming," but they don't look at they don't look at the movement pattern. They don't look at why they do that. So trying to learn game sense, I think if people are trying to learn game sense, if they're trying to learn already, they'd be capable of that. Because game sense is not a thing where a lot of people can just go to deathmatch and just learn. Game sense is something that just it's beaten into you. You play with better people and you learn from them. If because here's the thing, right? If you say for example, like for me, example, right? I go play with some Division 1 people in a pug. I'd be an idiot not to look at what they're doing right and what they're doing wrong. I'm not going to just simply go, oh, you're not getting any kills, because simply at the end of the day, kills are just simply you're winning aim deals or you can shoot people from behind. You're really good at doing anal. Now, that's going to change situationally on every single day. Some days you're going to go and hit a fucking 30 RWS in ECA. Some days you're going to drop a 2 RWS because, aim is always dependent. Game sense is something that is not as dependent. You always watch what the better players are doing. Like, say, for example, you always look at, say, for example, how Sniper would play, how James would play, how Ricky would play. Maybe, like, not how they do, like, the pugging style where they just charge out and kill, but you sometimes just maybe look at how they play in scrims. They, how they maneuver around, how Sniper or even, Sponge, how they move the people around when they're actually playing seriously, how they're trying to break down the walls that the counter-terrorists have built. How do they break them down? You got to tear them out brick by brick. You got to consider what the opponents are doing. And that's what the in-game leaders are always doing. They're always, okay, how are we going to pick apart this wall? How are we going to break through this? How are we going to make sure that we can nullify their weak point? You identify the weak point, you exploit it, and then you keep hitting that until that exploit has to be patched up. Sometimes, that player will not have a good aim day. You exploit that ruthlessly. They have to bring another player. Fuck that, go to a different site now. Now you need to mix it up. Now you split because you know that site's open, you slowly walk a person up. They throw a smoke, just suddenly push through it. You always try to outthink your opponent. There's a difference between doing something spastically, like, charging through a Molotov and smoke, just because. And there's a difference between charging through smoke because you know that person has their back turned, waiting to pop out. There's a completely big difference, and that comes down to the end of the day. You think about what that player's going to do. If I'm a player that's playing in that smoke, I'm going to wait. Say for example, I'm counter-terrorist holding Inferno at Nana. I might pop flash. Now, as a good terrorist, I know that if that corner's smoked up, I know they could be sitting in that very, very close corner, like, that closet where, say, for example, if you're a terrorist pushing in that really close one, you can pop flash out like that. As a terrorist, I'd be aware of that. I'd try to turn away, or I'd be aware of what's happening. Always try to make sure that if one player's already spraying, I'm not going to join in. I'm going to be trying and listening where the counter-terrorists are. Are they at second box? Are they at first box? A lot of the time, because the counter-terrorists may be running around inside, between first and second, I can now pinpoint that out. I can be, okay, he's first box, we can blow that off. And all we have to do now is flush out the other counter-terrorist who's going to be close. And sometimes, if he's going to be close, he might have a flashbang out waiting to come out through that smoke. I've exploited that a lot of times, just simply going through the smoke very slowly, and the counter-terrorist just waiting to flashbang. Because that smoke is deployed, they're not expecting a terrorist to slowly walk through. Now, that may be borderline between retardism, because, like, that's a fucking retard thing to do. Walking through smoke. But a lot of the time, if you know there's one second box, and he's not going to be spotting anything, you know there's one close, what do you have, to risk? That counter-terrorist now has to expose himself. It just all boils down to, sometimes, a really good play is the borderline between absolute, like, retardism and absolute genius. Like, there is no absolute genius player that is borderline on, if someone else tried it, it'd be completely retarded. How you tread that line is knowing exactly what you're doing. You have to, like, be confident in yourself that, okay, this is what I'm trying to do. Don't do it just for the sake of, oh, there's a smoke, let's just run through it. There's going to be a counter-terrorist somewhere. You've got the information already because other people are listening. Like, other people are listening on the site. There's one second mid. There's, sorry, not second mid. Second box. There's probably one close because he plays close a lot of the time. He hasn't changed it up. And that's a lot of the thing that players will do a lot of the time. They will not change things up. They will always go, okay, let's just go here now. Let's just go over there. And then you go, you know what? I'm kind of like done because you should always be trying to go through here, not there. But yeah, that's That's really what it boils down to at the end of the day. Just practice. If you want to become a better Counter Strike player, learn from those that are better than you. Know that sure, you have good aspects. Every single player has good aspects. Like, if once again going back to that cogwheel that I talked about earlier in the show, everyone has their good parts and their bad parts. My good part would be, say, for example, knowing exactly how opponents rotate around, knowing how to move around the map and moving the opponents around the map. My weakness is aim because like it's like fucking shithouse. Like if you see my aim, you're probably looking and going, "What the fuck is this idiot doing? Is he even aiming?" Like I probably like my crosshairs are about 3 centimeters away from my head. Like it's terrible. It's around head height. At least it's not aiming at the floor, but it's still terrible. But I know that because so every single time that I want to play seriously, I practice aim instead of practicing, you know, just knowing how to move around a map. Similarly, my flash and smoke knowledge is very low. So whenever like I actually go commentate a match or whenever I watch, I actually learn a lot of flashes, smokes, crossfires, and whatnot coming from actually commentating that. Actually, it's very interesting now that I bring it to that point, but I don't want to talk anymore because I feel like it's kind of impinging on time, I guess. I want to keep this like, to an hour, short, succinct, not short and succinct. I'll try to come up with more things to talk next time. This is very much a spur of a moment thing, but once again, thanks for tuning in. I noticed that there are a lot of people who have stayed here for a while. Thanks for tuning in once again. Follow me on my social media. I try to tweet out whenever there's something interesting on Twitter. I try not spamming it a lot. I try to upload videos onto YouTube a lot more. Probably edits. Probably they're more solid kind of things when I actually think about what to talk. These are more of I just talk about whatever. So whatever. But yeah, I'll probably be playing RuneScape later because that's the only thing I can really stream. Thanks for tuning in. If you guys got anything, message me. Chuck a follow because I'll be doing this more in the future. And I hope everyone has a good evening. Tune in towards the Peanut Gallery because it is going to be Vox Eminor up against the Chiefs. That will be an absolute cracker. Wouldn't be surprised if it goes to a best of 3. If you're asking for my prediction, I would say if all of Vox Eminor play, it'll be 2-1 Vox Eminor's favor. If they have to play one sub, it's going to be Chiefs easily 2-0. So my predictions are always